Have you ever really thought about what's going on inside your computer? I mean, deep down. We're about to pull back the curtain on this secret, busy little world that's running right now, and all it takes is one simple command.
So just look at your screen for a second. It probably seems pretty calm, right? Maybe you just have a browser open or, nothing at all. But is it actually idle? Not a chance. Right this very moment, there's a whole hidden world of activity just buzzing away in the background. The big question is, how do we actually see it?
All right, so to understand what's going on inside that machine of yours, we first need to get to know the locals, the inhabitants of this secret world, and they're called processes.
I love this analogy. Think of your computer as a giant office building. A process is like a tiny little worker with a very specific job to do. You've got one that's just in charge of your mouse pointer. You've got another one that's keeping an eye on your Wi-Fi. Another one's job is just making sure the clock is right. So even when you think you're not doing anything, all these little workers are running around making sure everything is humming along smoothly.
So how do we check in on all these tiny workers? Well, we start by just peeking through the keyhole. And we do that with our very first command, PS. So when you open up your terminal and just type PS and hit enter, you're going to get a list, but it's going to be a pretty short list. And that's because all you're seeing are the processes that are tied directly to that one terminal window. It's a start, for sure, but it's kind of like looking into that giant office building and only being able to see the person at the front desk. We know there's way more going on inside. Okay, so if we want to see the whole operation, and I mean absolutely everything, we need to do a lot more than just peek through the keyhole. It's time to pull the entire curtain back. And we do that with a much more powerful version of our command, PSAUX. And wow, the difference here is like night and day. Going from PS to PSAUX is like going from that tiny keyhole view to suddenly having the complete architectural blueprint for the entire building in your hands. You can see every single worker on every single floor. A massive list is going to scroll by on your screen, and that's the real story of what your computer is actually doing. Okay, whoa, that is a ton of information, right? It can feel pretty overwhelming, almost like you're trying to spot one specific person in a giant roaring stadium. So the next skill we need is learning how to cut through all that noise and turn it into something we can actually use. Let's break this down. It's way simpler than it looks. First, PSAUX gets us that master list of everything happening. Then we use this little vertical line here. It's called a pipe. Just think of it like a conveyor belt. It takes that whole giant list and sends it over to the next command, which is grep. Now, grep is basically our quality control inspector. It stands at the end of the conveyor belt and only pulls out the lines that have the word Firefox in them. And just like that, we found what we were looking for. And there are other ways to sort through this crowd. For example, PSU followed by your username will show you only the programs that you started. Or, for a totally different view, PS-EF is really cool. It shows you a family tree of sorts, revealing which process started which, kind of like an org chart for all our little tiny workers. Now, as you're scanning through all these lists, you're going to notice one column that's always just a number. And you really got to pay attention to this column because it's not just some random number. It is the absolute key to controlling these processes. It's called the PID. PID just stands for Process ID. And this license plate analogy, it's perfect. Every single thing running on your computer right now, from your web browser down to the tiniest little system task, has its very own unique identification number. At any given moment, no two processes have the same one. So a PID is just a number, like you see here. Simple, right? But it is incredibly powerful. And here's why. If a program freezes up, you can't just yell at your computer, "Stop that program." You need a super specific way to point to it. And that's what the PID is for. It's the handle you can use to grab and control any specific task running on your machine. So now you know how to take a snapshot, a single photograph of everything that's happening inside your computer at any one moment. You can find any process, you can get its unique ID. But a photo is static, right? It's frozen in time. What if you could watch all this activity as it happens, like a live video feed from inside your machine? Well, for that, you're going to have to join me for the next explainer.